Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving deep into the evolution of workplace mental wellness. For a really long time, the corporate world just treated mental health like a total taboo subject. And when they finally did start talking about it, the solutions were usually just superficial perks. Think Pizza Fridays or a random meditation app subscription. But the landscape is shifting in a big way. In this explainer, we're going to look at how true mental wellness in the modern workplace is actually a structured four-level ecosystem.
All right, let's take a quick look at our roadmap for today. We're going to start with the shift to knowledge work, then look at individual safety, reducing team friction, organizational safety nets, and finally, the structural policies required to hold the whole shebang together.
Section 1. The shift to knowledge work. We begin by exploring how the modern economy has radically transformed the actual tools we use to do our daily jobs.
Okay, before we get into the structural shifts, we've got to get our definitions straight. There is a lot of overlapping jargon out there, but today we are focusing squarely on mental wellness. The absolutely crucial point here, we are redefining it not just as the absence of illness, but as a proactive, dynamic state. It's really about psychological fitness, a state where you are actively realizing your potential, managing everyday stress, and meaningfully contributing to your team. This brings us to a massive paradigm shift we've seen over the last 30 years. Look, the modern push for mental wellness isn't just about employers deciding to be nice. It's a fundamental economic response. We moved from manual labor, which is all about physical output, straight into knowledge work. And when that happened, the dynamic completely changed. For knowledge workers, your brain literally became the primary tool of production. If an employee's brain isn't functioning optimally, the business takes a direct hit to its core assets. Now, the data behind how this primary tool operates is absolutely fascinating. Research shows humans actually only have about 3 to 4 hours of peak deep work capacity per day. Crazy, right? That completely shatters the dangerous illusion of the 8-hour cognitive grind. Organizations that ignore this and try to force 8 or more hours of high-intensity brain work inevitably face diminishing returns, and ultimately system failure, which we all know as burnout. Moving on to Section 2, individual safety and self-awareness. Because let's face it, any healthy system has to start with you. At the end of the day, you are ultimately responsible for yourself. An employer can create a fantastic, safe environment, but they cannot do the internal work for you. And the absolute cornerstone of that internal work, self-awareness. Without it, you're basically just a passenger to your own biological and emotional impulses, constantly just reacting to things. But when you add self-awareness, you create a pause. That pause acts like a diagnostic tool, giving you the power to intervene and consciously respond to tense situations. Building this self-awareness doesn't just happen by accident, though. It takes some intentional practice. First, try taking just 60 seconds to pause and reflect on a recent meeting without any judgment. Literally just notice your thoughts and bodily sensations. Second, work hard to build up that emotional vocabulary. Use something like a feeling sensation wheel to accurately pinpoint what you're experiencing. And third, bravely ask for feedback from people you trust regarding themes in your behavior. A quick tip from our source material here. If you only trust people who never confront you, well, that in itself is a theme worth exploring. And hey, you absolutely cannot optimize your mental software if you aren't taking care of your physical hardware. Mental and physical wellness are deeply, deeply linked. You've got to embrace basic routines around food and rest. Beyond that, utilizing professional therapists and support groups is a phenomenal way to build community and self-awareness. And let's be totally clear, there should be zero stigma around pursuing medication. For so many people, medication is a real game changer that clears the underlying fog, allowing them to finally dive into the self-awareness work we were just talking about.
But as we zoom out from the individual level, we've got to ask a messy but totally inevitable question. What happens when you put a whole group of people, all with varying levels of mental wellness, into one single workplace? Well, sparks are going to fly. Sometimes it's the spark of creativity, but a lot of times it's the spark of conflict. Which brings us right to Section 3, reducing friction within teams. Here, the focus shifts from individual coping mechanisms to building a collective architecture. Let's be exceptionally clear here. Supervisors are not therapists, and honestly, they shouldn't try to be. But supervisors do have immense power to drastically reduce workplace friction. How? By analyzing meeting structures. Asking, could this meeting just be an asynchronous document? They can co-create incredibly clear communication boundaries so people aren't trapped in this always-on culture. And they can implement routine energy checks. This isn't therapy, it's simply a quick weekly or monthly check-in where team members can flag capacity issues, buffering the whole team against burnout by giving them some predictability. All right, Section 4, building organizational safety nets.
Now we need to see how all this individual and team health impacts the broader organizational ecosystem. Because look, individual resilience just cannot fix a broken system. We're seeing a massive disconnect right now, particularly highlighted in a recent nonprofit sector report. Check out this burnout gap. We've got a staggering 43% of staff teetering right on the edge of burnout, yet only 21% of leadership even realize it's a major issue. That is a profound gap in awareness, and we cannot simply self-care our way out of a systemic crisis like this. And this creates a massive financial shockwave. If leadership needs a hard business case for mental wellness, well, here it is. Losing a skilled employee to burnout costs an organization anywhere from 50 to 200% of their annual salary just to recruit and retrain a replacement. Let that sink in. Building a systemic safety net isn't just a nice HR initiative. It is absolutely a core business metric for preserving your most valuable assets. To protect those core assets, employers really need to shift from just talking about culture to building concrete systems. That means scheduling planned, paid office closures after a notoriously intense season. It means leaders actually modeling vulnerability, because telling employees you support mental health is useless if the executive team never shows it themselves. It can even include integrating mental awareness practices, or MAP, like a quick breathing exercise at the top of a stressful meeting. And finally, it demands relentless, unifying communication to celebrate wins and reduce isolation. Finally, we zoom out to the absolute highest level in Section 5, structural policies and support. This is where wellness gets woven right into the company's DNA. This is where we move completely beyond those superficial perks we talked about at the very beginning. To support mental wellness at scale, an organization has to cement mental health into actual written policies. We're talking expansive time-off structures, like combining sick and vacation days into a highly flexible PTO program. It means providing formal training for leaders, like mental health first aid. It involves strengthening benefits with robust telehealth options. And crucially, it requires promoting digital self-management, empowering employees with the tools to manage their own productivity asynchronously. Bringing it all together, we really see the complete picture. Modern workforce wellness relies equally on maintaining our biological hardware, those foundational elements like sleep, nutrition, and movement, and constantly upgrading our psychological software. That software is the self-awareness that lets every single employee step back from impulsive, chaotic reactions and move toward conscious, resilient responses. When an organization supports both, they build a sustainable culture of true psychological safety. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a direct challenge. Because knowledge is really only power if you apply it, right? Whether you're an individual contributor looking at your own meeting schedule or an executive looking at sweeping PTO policies, look at your own ecosystem. What is one friction point you can absolutely remove for your team today? Take a moment, identify it, and go take action. Thanks so much for joining me to unpack this fascinating topic, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.